It started off as a joke, or at least that's what I believed. My wife, Sarah, had that teasing grin she wore whenever she was being playful. But this time, there was something heavier behind it. "Take my husband," she said with a laugh, glancing toward our younger neighbor, Kyle. For a moment, I froze. I couldn't tell if I was supposed to laugh along or ask if she'd lost her mind. What stunned me more was Kyle's reaction. He didn't laugh awkwardly or wave it off. He just smiled, slow and deliberate, and said, "If you insist." Sarah and I had been married 7 years. She'd always been lighthearted, full of jokes and playful mischief. We often teased each other. Harmless fun, or so I thought. But that night, something was different. The air had changed. There was an edge to it, a kind of a tension that made my chest tighten. Kyle was 25, confident, effortlessly charming, and observant in a way that made people feel seen, maybe too seen. He noticed things, everything, and somewhere in that evening, I realized a sinking feeling. He noticed me noticing him. It was supposed to be a simple gathering. A few friends, drinks, laughter echoing through the apartment. People came and went, but the undercurrent between Sarah and Kyle grew stronger with every passing minute. At first, I brushed it off. She's just joking, I told myself. She doesn't mean it. But the teasing kept coming. Sharper, riskier, and Kyle matched her every move. By mid-evening, the tension was thick enough to feel. The conversation shifted from small talk to something more personal. Kyle started asking deeper questions. Curious, probing, his gaze flicking between us, as though studying a dynamic only he could see. Sarah's laughter came quicker now, brighter, charged with something I hadn't heard before. Then it happened. She leaned toward him, close enough that her breath touched his ear, and whispered words that turned my blood cold. "You could have me tonight, if you want." My heart sank, not in jealousy, but in shock, disbelief. I thought I knew my wife. I thought I understood what lines we would never cross. But in one sentence, she blurred all of them. I didn't react, not right away. Instead, I watched. I listened, and that's when it hit me. This wasn't teasing anymore. This was temptation, curiosity, the thrill of being wanted by someone new. The room suddenly felt smaller. The music and chatter faded as my mind tried to process what I was seeing. Every instinct screamed at me, anger, confusion, pain, but I forced myself to stay calm, because I knew that reacting in shock never ends well. So I kept watching, quietly, waiting to understand how far this would go before deciding what to do. Kyle leaned closer, his fingers brushing Sarah's hand, testing boundaries. She didn't pull away. She looked right back at him, eyes bright with mischief, and something else, rebellion. My stomach twisted. I thought of our vows, our history, the trust we'd built, and how easily temptation could dismantle it all. No one else noticed at first. The others were lost in their own conversations, unaware of the storm brewing a few feet away. But small signs started showing, glances that lingered too long, touches that shouldn't have happened, a tone in her laugh that only surfaced when Kyle spoke. It was a dance, subtle but deliberate, a dangerous game I hadn't agreed to play. And even though it made me sick inside, I couldn't look away. Then came the turning point. Sarah leaned in again, whispered something I couldn't fully hear, part dare, part challenge, and Kyle smiled, slow and deliberate, before taking her hand. The charge between them was unmistakable, a spark that crossed every line I thought we had. At that moment, I understood the joke was over, the thrill had turned real, and I wasn't an observer anymore. I was the unwanted participant in a story unfolding without my consent. My hands clenched, not in rage, but disbelief. Sarah had crossed a line I didn't even know existed until she stepped over it. And yet, within the chaos, I felt something sharp and clear, truth revealing itself piece by piece. Kyle wasn't hiding. Sarah wasn't pretending. And everything I believed about our marriage, our security, our rules, was unraveling before my eyes. By the time the night wound down, I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't some silly flirtation. It was exposure, a brutal unveiling of desires, limits, and truths that couldn't be undone. When I finally excused myself in the room, I understood nothing between us would ever be the same. The next morning, the apartment was silent. Unnaturally so. Sarah moved through her routine like nothing had happened, as if the night before was a dream I'd invented. But I knew better. I could feel it, in the tension between us, in the way she avoided my eyes, in the slight tremor in her voice. Kyle had gone back to his apartment, but the residue of what happened lingered, thick and undeniable. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, replaying every glance, every whisper, every subtle gesture. What once seemed like harmless teasing now carried meaning, intent. That one joke had cracked open something deeper, a fracture of trust one couldn't ignore. And yet, beneath the hurt, a strange sense of clarity began to form. I could see the cause and effect, how a moment of recklessness can ripple through everything you've built. Later that day, I confronted her, not with shouting or accusations, but with quiet questions that demanded truth. "Sarah," I began, steady and calm, "what happened last night? Did you mean what you said, or was it just a joke?" Her eyes flickered, guilt, defiance, confusion. I could see it all play across her face. She hesitated, then admitted it. The flirting, the teasing, the thrill of seeing how far she could push it, even if it was only for a moment. She let Kyle cross into our world. That confession made everything crystal clear. This wasn't just about curiosity or attraction. It was about betrayal, about crossing lines she once promised never to touch. I didn't yell. I didn't walk out. I just listened, letting the weight of her words settle. And in that silence, I realized something simple but irreversible. Once trust is broken, it can't be easily restored. What she called a joke had been something far greater, a rupture, a fracture in everything we were. By nightfall, I'd made up my mind, not from anger, not from vengeance, but from understanding. The marriage I thought I had, the life I thought we shared, it no longer existed. Sarah's careless words, that reckless moment, had torn it all apart. As I stepped outside into the cool night air, leaving behind the echo of laughter, temptation, and betrayal, I understood one final truth. Some lines, once crossed, can never be uncrossed. And sometimes clarity, freedom, and self-respect come at the highest price of all.